Well, it's the holidays, so it's supposed to be the most wonderful time of the year, but let's be honest, it can be very stressful on families, on marriages. We'll be talking to a leading expert next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is The Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, holidays can bring on a lot of stress and family dynamics, and I think it's not a coincidence that January and February happen to be the busiest times of year for divorce attorneys. Couples just kind of limp through the holidays, and then they file in January and February, which is sad. Somebody who wants to change that dynamic is my next guest, McGill. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, let's start at the beginning. When you were, a child or teenager, were you the one that everybody was seeking relationship advice from?
Yeah, so growing up, I really cared a lot about relationships, that being that I came from a broken home. So it was really important to me to help other people learn how to have healthy relationships, healthy family systems.
And you were telling me before the show that you were about to become a divorce attorney or a family law attorney.
Yeah, so the original goal was to go into family law. I got into the coursework thinking that that was going to be the best way that I could help couples and families, and quickly learned that that was not the route that I wanted to take.
Well, it seems to me that the skill set that it takes to be a good attorney is completely different than being a therapist.
Yeah.
Tell me what your strengths are. Is it listening? Is it empathy?
Yeah, so my strengths as a marriage and family therapist are empathy, listening, being able to see the system entirely, learning how to really identify the dynamics that are taking place in the family system or relational system to help the couples get the support they need.
Yeah, and probably like listening with your heart. So it's not what they say, it's why did they just say that?
Yeah, and really getting to the root of the issue, helping them learn what the root of the issue is and helping them better understand themselves and have the self-awareness they need.
Sure. You've been doing this now professionally for 8 years. You have a very successful firm. Let's go ahead and scroll down her homepage of her website, and let's talk about the kinds of clients that you like to work with. You deal with everything from marriages that are in trouble to father-son, mother-daughter relationships.
Yeah, so I love working with clients who are willing to do the work, who have some sort of desire to believe that change is possible and to want to change the relationship in ways that they feel stuck in. I love working with adults and even teens who are willing to have healthy relationships.
And you were telling me before the show you have one of your favorite stories is a father-son.
Yes. Yes. So one of my success stories is a father and son. The father was really resistant to family therapy initially just because he came from a different generation, didn't want to do the therapy, but because of his relationship with his son and that being so important to him, he was willing to do the work, learned about how he was showing up in the relationship, and the son just felt really misunderstood. And so through family therapy, they were willing to understand one another, understand that the dynamics weren't on purpose or intentional, but really trying to understand one another's emotional experiences.
And you were telling me before the show that it was kind of like he came from an authoritarian background and, hey, kid, life is not a bowl of cherries. But he had to probably learn how to listen.
Yeah, he had to learn how to listen. He had to learn how to not be so defensive and not so blaming and truly hear where his son was coming from instead of believing that there was something faulty in his parenting.
Sure. We've got video from our library. We're going to put this up. And when you're looking at couples that are fighting, is it mostly that everybody's talking and nobody's listening?
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of blame. There's a lot of criticism. There's a lot of defensiveness, and that truly gets couples stuck. A lot of couples don't want to hear where their partner is coming from or what's going on for them because they feel like it's a personal attack to them. So it's really about zooming out, not taking offense to what your partner is saying, not blaming your partner, and truly trying to listen and understand them.
And after a while, couples get to know which buttons to push. If you really want to upset her, you say this. Talk about the importance of not pushing buttons if you're trying to solve a problem.
Yeah, so it's important to not take your partner's vulnerability and use that against them. I mean, we see in relationships how couples want to be open and vulnerable with one another, and it's important not to take that and throw that back in your partner's face if there is a misunderstanding or conflict that's taking place. That should be held in almost a sacredness in the relationship, and that helps you build trust with your partner, and it helps the relationship feel emotionally safe.
Sure. Now, when you're working with couples or even parents and children for the first time, do you meet with them together or separately or both?
Yeah, so initially I'll meet with both of them together, and that's just to better understand their relationship history. Then I'll separate them and have individual sessions with them both, and then bring them back together to learn more about their relationship goals and what they're wanting to work on.
And sometimes there's a dominant figure who likes to do all the talking. Do you have a kind of a system for saying, okay, Dad, we're going to hear from you in a minute. Let's hear from your son.
Yeah, absolutely. For me personally, my therapist approach and style is taking more of a directive approach. So I really want both people to feel heard. And so that is us minimizing certain people from taking over the majority of the conversation and letting people know that both of them can come into this space and talk about what's important to them and feel understood. If they don't feel understood in the therapy room, how are they going to work to feel understood outside of that space?
Absolutely. And I think it's gotten even more complicated because it seems like everybody's on their phone these days. Nobody's really tuned into the other. And so it can be very easy for parents to get into a routine with their kids and couples get into a routine where they're just not talking anymore.
Yeah. We have a lot of people who are in relationships and they're not willing to talk, and not just talk at a surface level, but do the deep dive of truly being able to understand one another. And I think we're seeing a lot of people who don't understand themselves, so it's hard to communicate what you don't know about yourself to your partner who wants to better understand you.
I found a great article on you by Voyage Dallas. Let's go ahead and put that headline on the screen. Because in the article, you do get into the fact that you came from a troubled home. Share a little bit more about that, if you will.
Yeah. So I did grow up in a home where my mom struggled with substance abuse. And there was a lot of disconnection. There was divorce in the family system. And so that really then created this dynamic where I saw how substance abuse negatively affected me and my brother and the family dynamic. And so that's why there was just this really deep-rooted desire to help family systems change and be the healthiest that they can be.
That probably makes you a much more successful therapist because you've walked a mile in their shoes.
Yeah, I can relate. I can empathize with them. I get it. I know how painful it is. I know how troubling it feels, and I know how helpless it can be. And that's why I pride myself on being a resource to other people, because I want to be the resource that I wish I had back then.
Okay, in the final 2 minutes, why don't you look into the camera on the left and talk directly to that person whose relationship with their child, their wife or husband is falling apart.
Yeah, I would say to you that change is possible. There is a possibility that your relationships can change. It doesn't mean that it's not going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of willingness on your behalf, but change is possible. I tell my clients all the time that we can't change what we're not aware of. And so my job as a therapist is to want to help you gain the self-awareness that you need to be able to not only flourish for yourself, but flourish in your relationships too.
Wow, so well put. Thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to end with her website. I love the name, spaceandgracecounseling.com. The great MarQui McGill. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.